We told you that this was going to happen.
Throughout the city of Chicago, we provide on-site medical care.
That's not what we're hearing from many of those who live here, however. Several migrants saying today illness is rampant among the children, with very little, if any, medical care being given. Most don't want to show their faces for fear of retaliation. There is a chickenpox outbreak, says this 28-year-old mother of two. There's a flu outbreak. Children have scabies. There are bed bugs. Anything you can imagine is in that shelter. A few days ago, my daughter had a fever, says this 22-year-old mother. I was told I had to wait for an appointment. They got 3 appointments.
Well, Brandon, according to this news report and according to multiple news reports, what you said about on-site medical care or on-site medical care is not exactly happening, according to at least the migrants. But then again, at the same time, the media could have a skewed view on this one. But seeing how it is that they push for the migrants to get over here, I think that maybe they just might be credible in this case. What's up, guys? John Claymore here. And I want to take a second really quick and apologize for not getting any content out on Tuesday. Separate engagements occurred. And, of course, at the time, I just didn't have enough time to actually put the video out that I had planned. However, we're going to be releasing 2 videos today. And we're going to be releasing 2 videos tomorrow. And then ultimately 2 videos on Friday. And then 1 more on Saturday. But with that right there being said, let's go ahead and get to this story here. So the city of Chicago, as I've been saying for a while with wintertime coming, now has this issue with the migrants where they're now suddenly getting sick. In one case, a 5-year-old little boy died. Don't worry, we will get to that news report here in a second, and you'll also see the full news report that I opened up with on let's just say I'll be showing you guys the full news report because it's actually a lot more detailed than what you saw. The thing is this right here. With bringing in migrants, you have all kinds of problems. The number one thing that I've been pointing out is the fact that you can't really and truly feed or take care of them, and you're also drawing resources from other groups that live in the cities to help cover this. And to go on top of this in New York, the budget cuts that I've talked about is only going to make this situation a lot worse. Same thing with the city of Chicago, which I don't think they've actually announced any real budget cuts just yet. But of course, they're finding the bus drivers who are coming in, claiming that they are rogue bus drivers. I already did a video on that. But the thing is this right here, is not only the fact that you can't feed them after a while and that you have to expend certain benefits or take certain benefits from certain groups, it's also the fact that, blacks and Hispanics, of course, are natural enemies. They always have been, okay? And then to go on top of this, now you have this issue of wintertime and you have this issue of cold and sickness, especially in the Chicago weather. And I hate to say this, it's only going to get worse. Now, guys, I'm going to play the news report that you saw earlier, the full news report, for exception of about maybe 15 seconds. I had to cut it off at the very, very end for different reasons. But still, at the same time, you're going to get the full gist of what's going on, especially given the fact that the Chicago mayor is saying that they do have on-site medical care. However, if they do, I don't think it's enough.
That's right, Rob and Judy. Right now, 25th Ward Alderman Byron Siccho Lopez has just gone into the shelter to conduct what he calls an emergency walkthrough of a place that, according to city records, houses as many as 2,300 migrants, and where, according to those we have spoken to today, there might be an outbreak of illness amongst both children and adults. From the outside, this 6-story warehouse is nothing but a nondescript building along an industrial stretch of Halsted and Pilsen. But for months now, it's been housing thousands of migrants. And last night, a 5-year-old boy died following what appears to have been a medical emergency that many of those who live here say began inside a bathroom. The boy started convulsing and bleeding, says this migrant whose husband witnessed the episode, adding, a woman who works there tended to him until the paramedics arrived. They were still trying to revive him when they took him away. Identified as 5-year-old Jean Carlos Martinez, Mayor Brandon Johnson today expressed his condolences and said, unfortunately, many of the arriving migrants are coming into Chicago already sick.
We're gathering information, as I've said before, at every single site throughout the city of Chicago. We provide on-site medical care.
That's not what we're hearing from many of those who live here, however. Several migrants saying today illness is rampant among the children, with very little, if any, medical care being given. Most don't want to show their faces for fear of retaliation. There is a chickenpox outbreak, says this 28-year-old mother of two. There's a flu outbreak. Children have scabies. There are bed bugs. Anything you can imagine is in that shelter. A few days ago, my daughter had a fever, says this 22-year-old mother. I was told I had to wait for an appointment. They got 3 appointments.
Now, right now, they are saying it's chickenpox. They're saying it was a chickenpox outbreak. And I want to go ahead and say this right now. Typically, and I'm no doctor, but this right is pretty well common sense. Most people get chickenpox at a very young age. You get it when you're a child. However, as you get older, chickenpox can become a little bit more dangerous. I don't really and truly know the reasons for that. I'll link some stuff in the description box about that, but still at the same time, if you have an outbreak of chickenpox, which of course is contagious, yeah, this type of thing could in fact occur. And seeing how it is that this particular center housed roughly 2,300 migrants, don't worry, we'll get to this here in a second, you got to wonder if it's going to get any worse. It's bad enough that the Brighton Park facility was being built on, let's just say, it was being built on non-environmentally friendly ground. And of course, now you've got the churches taking people in. You got to wonder exactly what's going to happen next. Now, I'm not here to say that they're bringing disease or anything like that, but obviously if people were not well, marching across country, getting on planes, being around other people, of course, the sicknesses are in fact going to break out. Let me give you a good example of what I mean. When I joined the Marines back in 2003, I was not prepared for this, yet somehow or another, I was able to actually evade this in boot camp. When you're huddled in a group of about 60 to 70 men, which of course there was about 65 men in our platoon at the time. My platoon was actually pretty small when I was 3rd Battalion India Company, but still the platoon was actually relatively small compared to the other 2 in our series and then the other 3 in the remainder of the company. The thing is this here. When you're around that many men, sicknesses will in fact break out. Now, granted, these are men, women, and children, which is going to make the situation a lot worse, especially if something like, say, chickenpox breaks out. We told you this, we've been saying this for a while, that this right here would in fact happen. And as winter continues to drag on, it gets a lot worse. The thing you have to understand is that these people, these libs with this extremely open worldview are now finding out that they did in fact make the wrong decision. If there were all kinds of other decisions that were made before, then obviously this right here was the icing on the cake. But I have a feeling it's going to get a lot worse. There was one particular resident who sat down with the mayor the other day and had an actual conversation. Well, I wouldn't call it a sit down. I would call it more of a town hall meeting. I'm going to play this for you guys. We're going to come back on the other side. We're going to see what the mayor himself is actually saying in regards to the entire situation. And then we're going to play the final news report. And then we're going to come back and give you guys a final conclusion on what's going on.
I'm a native to Chicago. I was born and raised here. I've seen the changes. Don't let the age fool you for how I look, because I've been here a long time. I have seen things just transition as if a lot of people are not important here. I'm not for the sanctuary city. And the reason why I'm not for the sanctuary city is because people have waited years to come in here legally, not just transported on these buses, dropped off in our neighborhoods, raise of crime, almost got hit several times just making it down here today. And this is ludicrous. There should not be 2 sets of laws. Also, the West Side and the South Side Black communities have been earmarked for having funds. Never seen it. We're still waiting on those funds to come into those communities. Brandon Johnson, many people stood behind you. They feel let down because the day you came into office, which I believe was May 15th, you already had signed an executive order. Now, whether it came from Governor Pritzker or whomever that directed you on this, is it fair to these communities that have been waiting for years? You said you're on the West Side, but you should know what's going on over there as well. Let's also talk about the...
By the way, guys, this right here is not the first video that I have shown you guys of Black residents in the city who have been questioning this, who have been upset, who have especially been upset about the fact that these migrants are collecting roughly $7,000 a month. in certain benefits. And of course, these people have also at the exact same time, not only has that occurred, but these people have also been receiving probably the best of benefits that you could in fact receive. And not to mention the fact that these people have been staying inside police stations and they've been staying inside very, very nice hotels. So when they finally get moved out of this situation, now they suddenly want to complain. Their complaints on the surface do in fact seem valid, but as I have said on several occasions, you should have never crossed the border to begin with. You should have used some common sense. You should have stayed home, stay right where you were, or sought asylum in Mexico and then applied the right way. That right there is what you should have done. But instead, we're putting them on Delta Airlines.
Phoenix Airport right now, I'm waiting to board my flight to New York, to JFK. And it looks like we have a whole lot of migrants who are also boarding this flight that the U.S. taxpayers are paying for. This is what the U.S. taxpayers are paying for right here. Premium seats on Delta that they have people coming here. We're paying for this, shipping them out to New York City because guess what? Everywhere else is at capacity. So they have these sanctuary cities like New York that they're now shipping these migrants to. That
was Ashley St. Clair who reported on that. That was in the state of Arizona. Don't worry, we're going to come back to that here in a second. But the thing that really baffles me is the political shift and political blame that's going on here, especially from Mayor Brandon Johnson.
The issue is not just how we respond in the city of Chicago, it's the fact that we have a governor, an elected official in the state of Texas that is placing families on buses without shoes, cold, wet, tired, hungry, afraid, traumatized, and then they come to the city of Chicago where we have homelessness, we have mental health clinics that have been shut down and closed, you have people who are seeking employment.
Need I remind you guys that Brandon Johnson was a true believer, the sanctuary city stuff. These people were all true believers, well, with the exception of Eric Adams, who just simply ran on it. And I don't even think he really and truly did that, but obviously we were going to expect some crap. Look, this right here is not Greg Abbott's fault. A lot of people want to say, this is Greg Abbott, this is the state of Texas, Texas is doing this. Dude, I want you to know right now that Greg Abbott is not the one who's really and truly responsible. We keep hearing commentators say, well, Greg said, well, if you want them, we're going to send them there to you. You're going to get what it is that you vote for. This should be Texas' problem. And of course, he's correct. It shouldn't be Texas' problem. Texas is basically taking on the entire burden of the entire nation. But the thing is this right here. The person who is allowing this and approving this is Joe Biden's Department of Immigration. ICE, Homeland Security, they're allowing these people to basically go across country. Border Patrol, all that stuff. Maybe you should take up your complaints with your leader there, Mr. Biden. I think that right there is who you should take up your complaints with. But getting back to the whole sickness thing, let's take a look at it one more time.
Learning more about the conditions inside of a city-run migrant shelter where a little boy was living before he died.
At least 6 people have been taken to the hospital from that shelter in Pilsen over the past few days, mostly children. CBS 2's Sabrina Francis spoke with a volunteer trying to help. Sabrina?
The Chicago Department of Public Health started raising red flags about chickenpox cases in migrant shelters on December 4th, almost 2 weeks ago. Still video from inside the shelter shows beds lined up against each other. No isolation as more and more asylum seekers are getting sick. Mayor Brandon Johnson says migrants are coming to Chicago sick. Volunteers say that's not the point.
And the people that are coming out were notably unwell. A lot of coughing, a lot of kids with kind of boogery, greenish stuff in their eyes, a lot of running noses, people visibly shaking and underdressed.
Britt Hodgson has been helping migrants for months at police stations, now at the Halstead shelter. She assists migrants outside in the cold because she says she and other volunteers have been denied access.
So we cannot approach the shelter.
Why is that?
Favorite Staffing has some rules and have threatened arrest numerous times at numerous shelters.
Wow, talk about karma. Now, guys, you know me by now. I'm not one of these guys who is like all about saying indigenous peoples or whatever, but if I recall correctly, they kind of blamed white people, especially Spaniards, for bringing disease to them. Almost feels like they're doing it to us, and I'm pretty sure some left-wing loon will probably jump on this and probably cheer it, not realizing that they're probably the ones that would actually be affected by this. And as I said before, I'm not one of these pro-indigenous types people. I very, very much believe in Columbus Day and all that stuff there. But I can already hear somebody screaming poetic when in reality it's not poetic. The people of the city of Chicago, the people who voted for this crap, they are simply getting what it is that they voted for. And it's not just the fact that this stuff is going to be affecting people inside the migrant shelters. It will probably find a way to get out and affect the people who actually live in the city who are not migrants as well. So I see a lot more chaos to come. Now, guys, I'll play the other half of that report here in a second. I'm obviously doing this on a 3-minute clip to avoid copyright, but still, at the same time, the situation is obviously getting worse. And I did, in fact, call this and many others. By the way, we don't call this because we want it to occur. We call this because it's more than likely going to happen. It's the most probable thing that, of course, would in fact occur in a situation like this. Go back to what I was saying about being huddled up with roughly 65 people. Eventually, sicknesses will in fact break out. In that case there, I don't think I clamped down enough, but the thing is this here. Roughly about 10 or 11 people in the platoon itself did in fact get sick. Now, this is a situation where you've got 2,300 migrants staying in one facility. You've got 1,000 migrants staying in another facility. You got to ask yourself a question. Will the numbers get much, much larger? And I think that this right here, what I'm about to show you now, the rest of the news clip will probably answer that for you.
Staffing, a healthcare staffing firm. City data shows they've been paid almost $94 million in the past year to help with this crisis.
People are still kind of living open air, if you will, in a shared space in the shelter, no isolation.
This memo, obtained by CBS2, shows the Chicago Department of Public Health flagging varicella, chickenpox, on December 4th. They note cases inside shelters for new arrivals. 5-year-old Giancarlos Martinez Rivero was living at the Halstead shelter before he died. His cause of death is still unknown.
He had a very high fever, over 40 centigrade, so that would be like at least 104.
He had to be taken to the hospital by ambulance, while just a few blocks away sits Alivo Medical Center, ready to receive and help migrants, though we're told no one really knows about them.
We know where to find migrants. We knew the stations, we know shelters. You could do mass vaccination and mass treatment, and we're just not experiencing that.
Moments ago, we got a statement from the mayor's office, an updated statement about all of this, which says that on Sunday, this child had a medical emergency and staff at the shelter, they say, immediately called 911, issued chest compressions before emergency crews got there, and that child was pronounced dead at the hospital. The city is saying that this incident was not related to the other 3 children that were taken to the hospital on Monday, November 18th. They're also saying that in this case, the child did not appear to have died from an infectious disease, but again, the investigation into his death is still on.
The more these cases happen over the winter, the more people will get sick, the more people will get infected. And if it is chickenpox, like I said before, if it hits older populations or older people, it's obviously going to have much, much more devastating results. Now, granted, I can hear somebody saying, well, it's only one person. Dude, I hate to tell you this, but it's one 5-year-old child. We keep on hearing about think of the children. Well, as I've said on several occasions, the best way you could think about your children in this case is not bring them across the damn border. The best thing you could do is not cross the border at this moment in time. That right there is what should have happened. It's not just the fact that a wall itself should have been constructed or built. It was these people's lack of actual personal accountability and responsibility. Oh, wait, Biden's opening the border. Biden's going to let us in. Well, let's go ahead and track from Venezuela all the way up to Chicago. Does that sound like a smart thing to do? Especially given the fact that you have a family, you have kids, and you're bringing them across the border. You're lumping yourself in with more people who, quite frankly, could rob, could steal from you, possibly hurt you, injure you, maybe even kill you. And now you are inside one of the most dangerous cities in the country during winter, waiting for a green card or waiting for benefits, which, by the way, a lot of these people don't qualify for because a lot of these people came post-July the 21st. They thought by marching across and I guess they thought that getting to the United States during the summer, they wouldn't be here that long, or maybe they would have their status, or maybe they were told by other people that they're getting all kinds of benefits. They said, you know what, let's go ahead and join in on this as well. and they irresponsibly brought their children with them, or they irresponsibly chose not to seek asylum in Mexico and wait for the country to say, come on in. And as you guys can see, as a result of this, they are now officially paying the price. But then again, though, at the same time, like I've always said, the best way to red pill a leftist, the best way to red pill a liberal is give them what it is that they voted for. However, here's the problem, though. The vast majority of these libs who voted for this, and this right here is my conclusion, are probably not going to care. It's all about virtue signaling is what the hell it is. The only people in those areas that really and truly care about this situation are the lower class citizens, meaning the working class citizens, those who cannot get good jobs. I don't mean that in a negative connotation. I want you to know that right now. People of color who traditionally vote Democrat anyways, but are probably socially a lot more conservative. It's a traditional thing. I'll explain it in another video. These right here are the people who are obviously the most upset about it. And of course, it's going to lead to crime, chaos, starvation, and of course, it's also going to lead to what you're seeing now. Rampant sickness, which of course, this entire situation is probably going to get worse the colder it gets outside. We warned you about this, and now this right here has actually happened. So, who in the world is really and truly responsible for this? Well, I look at the mayor of Chicago, and I see that, like I've said before, he's a true believer. Socialist deserts, only won by 3 points, says young scholars, little kids that go in to start rioting and destroying property are hungry. And you got to ask, and you probably think to yourself, wow, this guy right here is a complete, total, clueless idiot. Yep, he is the open world, no danger seeing liberal. But is he really and truly at fault? I would say he's just another useful idiot like I've talked about in several videos before. Is Greg Abbott at fault? No, he's not at fault. Greg Abbott has actually passed recent laws to curb this. You want to blame somebody for this, blame the person that you voted for there, Chicagoans. Blame Joe Biden for allowing it to continue and allowing it to go on. These people's sickness, these people's deaths or whatnot are on you. So please do us a favor and either A, don't vote for this guy again in 2024, or B, stay home. With that being said, guys, John Claymore here. There's going to be 2 videos out today. The second video is going to be about, well, it's actually going to be connected to this one here to a certain degree. Make sure you guys stick around for that one as well. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say, and I'll see you guys later.